What's up, everybody, wherever you may be and however you may be experiencing this video. I am glad that I get to be here with you. I'm glad I get to be a part of your life, and I'm glad that you are here on this earth. It is good that you are alive. This weekend, we feature the last weekend in Ordinary Time before Lent begins, amazingly enough. And we feature a really, really famous scripture passage, a really famous saying in scripture that a lot of people quote, whether you're Christian and actively Christian or not. It's the whole, why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but you do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? And it's a phrase that a lot of people will use for like, hey, don't judge other people. Like, first focus in on yourself. First focus in on what you're bringing to a particular problem or a particular challenge before you venture out to place the blame on someone else or challenge someone else or do whatever in somebody else's direction. And that's true. It is really, really good advice. Let's say when you're having a fight with your spouse, to be like, okay, what am I contributing to this problem first? To take ownership of what you're bringing to the table first. It's a really, really practical, helpful, useful tool for someone who is in relationship with anybody. Like, even when you think about God, it's really useful when you think about God in your relationship with God. It's like, God, I really want to get mad at you, and I really want to be angry with you, and I really want to blame you for this thing that happened or didn't happen in my life. And it's like, well, what am I bringing to the table? Am I potentially blocking this thing? Does God actually want me to have this good thing, but I'm blocking it? One of the most powerful examples of this would be someone who is single, who wants to be in a relationship and who wants to be married. The first question you should ask is, am I the kind of person that another person would find attractive to marry? That's a really, really good question. You could be like, God, why haven't you given me a spouse? And the answer could be, well, you're blocking me from introducing you to somebody to enter into marriage with. So this is really good advice. It's really good and really useful. Reflect on yourself, reflect on what's going on within you and what you're bringing to the table before you go cast a stone towards somebody else, before you try to offer correction to somebody else. It's also useful if you're like, okay, I've got to call somebody out for something. I've got to call somebody higher. You know, let's say you're someone that you're walking with, a friend of yours is going to do something you know is bad for them. It's actually really useful to examine your own intentions and examine why you think you're the one who's called to offer a correction to somebody else prior to going and offering the correction. Really useful, really good, really helpful advice. But I actually think that in our day and age, there's something really hidden and really powerful about this gospel passage that is something I have lived experience with that I want to share with you. And it's the fact that this particular passage, why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but don't perceive the wooden beam in your own? You hypocrite, remove the wooden beam first from your eye first, then you'll see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. That advice, that wisdom, that famous gospel quip is contextualized by Jesus saying, can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. So, Jesus is saying a couple of things. One, everybody needs a guide in life. In order to become who God made you to be, in order for you to find success in actually anything, not just the spiritual life, but anything, you need a guide. You need someone to help you. You need to sit at the feet of this person. You need to be taught. You need to learn. You need to learn. You need to be guided. So we all need guides. It's like, you want to have a great marriage and you want to be a great husband, you should find a guide who's going to help you be a great a great husband. You want to be a great parent. You want to be a great mom. Okay, well, do you have a guide? Do you have somebody that you can look to and be like, okay, let me get wisdom from this person. Let me understand this person. Let me tell this person what I'm going through, and they can help guide me in your spiritual life. You're like, okay, I want to be holy. I want to be as holy as God created me to be. Okay, well, do you have a guide? Do you have somebody who's helping you walk through that process? This is also really true for psychological distress. It's like, I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety. Okay, do you have a guide to help you go through that? Like, do you keep running into the same problem with the same with relationships across the board? Do you keep having the same problem no matter the relationship over and over and over again? Well, you need a guide. You need a guide to help you see what's actually going on there and help you overcome it. So first, Jesus takes it as a given that we are going to adopt guides in life, and that we need guides to get where we're trying to go, to get where we're called to go. So that's number one. And number two, Jesus is talking about, if you're going to dare be a guide, you better do deep, hard work on your own stuff continuously. One of the things that is really alarming about the mental health field currently, about going off and getting a therapist and walking with a therapist, is that you have no idea who's guiding that person, what teaching, what philosophy, what mentor, and if that person is being accompanied themselves. So there's a lot of conversation in this day and age about mental health and about the growing mental health crisis, the ever increasing mental health crisis, and how no matter how much money or people or attention we put at the problem seems to keep getting bigger. It continues to be more people with anxiety, more people with depression, more people with suicide ideation, more people with scrupulosity, more people handling and struggling with psychological distress. And a complex problem like this one has multiple reasons behind the problem. But one of the problems, one of the reasons why this thing keeps getting bigger instead of getting smaller, is exactly what Jesus is talking about here. That in order for you to go and remove the splinter in your brother's eye, you need a guide to continuously help you remove the beam in your own. We like to think that we can just remove the beam and then we never have to deal with the beam ever again. It's like, no, that's not the experience of it. Our own pain, our own wounds, our own hypocrisy, our own struggles, our own stuff comes in waves. It comes cyclically. It doesn't come once and then gone forever and you never have to deal with the ramifications of it. Even if you get the beam out of your eye, you still have to deal with the damage of removing a literal beam from your eye. So as you go to receive guidance and help in your life, it's really important to ask a person, what is your guidance grounded in? What is it based on? That's the first question. And the second question is, who is accompanying you? Who's walking with you? Because you're a human being. Your life is stuff's going to hit the fan in your life. How are you going to be able to continue to walk with me and not put your stuff on me over the course of this process? How are you going to be able to do that? Those are two excellent questions. It's become really, really popular in the modern age that if you are called to ministry, especially at a younger age, if you're called to ministry and you're good at giving talks and you really like giving talks, and maybe you start working as a youth minister or something along those lines, and then you get married and you start to have a family and you're like, I can't do the whole youth ministry parish evangelization thing. It doesn't pay enough. I can't provide enough for my family. Well, what do people go to? What do they become out of that? They become like Catholic coaches. And people start treating them, as they develop a ministry, like a pseudo spiritual director, coach, mentor, therapist. And while there are really good, well-intentioned people who go into that space and who go to help, who can provide temporary relief at least from time to time, if they're not being fed, if they're not being accompanied, that process is fraught with danger and fraught with challenges. It really is. And so when you ask this question, you're like, okay, what is your teaching? What is your coaching? What is your philosophy grounded in? What is it grounded in? And then where are you being fed and who is feeding you? Because that's going to give you a really, really good idea into the latter half of the gospel here, which Jesus talks about. What is the fruit that this tree is bearing? It'll give you a really good guess as to the type of fruit this guide is going to bring in your life. So there's lots of popular things out there today that are meant to be helpful. Like there are Catholic coaches out there. There are things like the women's school and the men's school. And there are people who lead and facilitate those programs and things like that. And before you get into them, a really powerful question is, what is this grounded in? And who is feeding the person who's supposed to feed me? Because that will help you understand if it is following what Jesus is talking about, this process of continually working on yourself if you are going to enter into the business of helping other people grow. So lots of people right now are thinking about, being in therapy, or whether their therapy is working, or getting a coach or not getting a coach, or having a mentor or not having a mentor. This is a really good evaluation process. Using this gospel is a really good way to evaluate whether or not the person in front of you who's offering help is actually a good, is likely to provide the help they're promising. And it's a good way for you to anticipate the type of fruit that person is going to bear in your life. We all need guides. We all need help, but we need to make sure we're honed in on the type of help that we truly need and what fruit is going to be born from that help. So God bless you. God bless you in your week. And always remember, you were made to do hard things.